Hello there, I'm Shiva Wilson and I've come here to talk about cannabis. Cannabis news with me, Shiva Wilson. It's about cannabis busts. If you search for cannabis on Google and put it on news, you'll find loads of busts where the police are busting people for growing cannabis across the land. It's every day someone is caught. About 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different cannabis busts where someone's been, or multiple people have been growing cannabis in warehouses, back rooms, lofts, wherever. And it's just sad and disappointing to see that on the news, that if you type in cannabis for the UK anyway, that's what you get. And when you type in cannabis for America and you look at the news, they're all talking about various different legalizations and, things about cannabis where it's already been legalized. And it just seems so much more refreshing to see that kind of thing in the news. And the UK just looks so backward. All they seem to care about in the local newspapers is busting cannabis farmers. And I just think it's going to look silly if we finally do legalize cannabis in this country, or when. I presume it's when. It could be ages, but it could be soon. We don't know. We don't know what Labour's going to do if they get into power. It looks like Labour's going to get into power at the next general election, which is on July the 4th, Freedom Independence Day. And so it looks like Labour's getting in, and therefore the cannabis lobbyists and campaigners will have to convince Labour to legalise cannabis if that's what we want, which I presume is what we do want. So yeah, I just think it's going to look really dumb when we look back from a position of legalisation at how much we criminalised and demonised and punished and scandalised and sensationalised cannabis busts and cannabis grows. Like, it just doesn't seem very sensible. I mean, if you look at like Germany, for example, Canada, Luxembourg, Malta, and any other places where they've allowed you to home grow cannabis, it's just like, how dumb are we in Britain for busting people for growing cannabis? I mean, if they legalise it and then you've got shops selling and you've got big farms growing cannabis, it's like, it's going to look so dumb that we busted so many people for illegal cannabis grows after the fact of legalisation. So I don't know why they're so obsessed with reporting about it. You know, can't they just leave it alone and keep it quiet? The one thing that they shouldn't be keeping quiet is medical cannabis, which is legal in the UK. And it seems to be kind of hush-hush. There's hardly any news about medical cannabis. So that's why not many people know about it. And there's only between 30 and 60,000 people in Britain using medical cannabis legally at the moment. And the number is hard to find a decent number on Google as to how many people are actually prescription holders. And so they shouldn't be keeping that hush-hush. They should be making more about it and trying to get people, for example, to move off the black market and onto medical cannabis, which apparently there's 1.8 million people self-medicating for whatever condition is applicable for medical cannabis. So people are using black market cannabis, 1.8 million people using black market cannabis to self-medicate where they could be using medical legal cannabis instead. And I think that's what there needs to be, more of an awareness campaign going on, and some more awareness in the news that this is a legal thing, and it has been legal for more than 5 years now. I read also that something like a quarter or 1/5 of police officers don't know that medical cannabis is actually legal in the UK or at this time, and that's sad as well. So there needs to be an awareness campaign in the news, in papers, across the internet, I don't know, so that more people know, that this is a legitimate thing. And I've been interested in cannabis for a number of years, since I was a teenager, and I only really got into the news of it more recently, and even I didn't know that medical cannabis was a thing until like a year ago. So it's been kept really hush hush, which is bizarre. I think we've got some real problem with stigma around cannabis in this country, and that needs to go. So those are my thoughts. Too much news about busts and not enough news about medical cannabis, and finally, not enough campaigning really for legalisation. There needs to be some decent campaigns, or at least one big campaign in the UK for pushing for the legalisation of recreational cannabis, because let's face it, not everyone is eligible for medical cannabis, and there are people who want to use cannabis like they do alcohol, just to relax and to have fun and to chill and to get insights and whatever, and for it not to be a medical thing, but just to be a recreational thing. Yeah, and I think that having the medical system is great, but not everyone is eligible for it. So I think it should be regulated like alcohol, and we should adopt a system like Canada, or some of the states in the United States, some of the states in America, where they have shops and regulation, taxation, quality control, things like that. And that needs to happen in the UK for a fairer system, really, because it is silly that alcohol, which can be so damaging in high doses and long-term use, etc., is completely legal and is regulated and taxed, and yet cannabis, which has some negative effects, yes, but on the whole, it's not as dangerous as alcohol as I see it. It doesn't cause violence in most of the cases, and alcohol is well known to get people violent in high doses, and it can cause death, and cannabis doesn't cause death in high doses. So those are my thoughts. Less busts on the news, more medical cannabis on the news, and a strong legalisation campaign for the UK. There you go. I've been Shiva Wilson. This is Cannabis News. Well, that was Cannabis News. Goodbye.